Good evening and welcome once again to this very special program, Let's Talk Politics. This program is brought to you by the People's Progressive Party Civic. I'm your host, Micheal Gordon. What we do on this program, we continue to examine and dissect the political issues of the day. Of course, you would know there is much activity within the body politic in Guyana. Make no mistake about it, we continue to examine and to extrapolate some of the things that have been happening and to go through some of those with a fine-tooth comb to bring further clarity to our listeners and our viewers. I'd like to, on the note of our listeners and our viewers, I'd like to thank you for joining us across the length and breadth of Guyana. And for those who are joining us in the diaspora, I am most honored to have us, for you to have us in your living rooms tonight. I'm joined by a very good bunch that I'm very proud of, a very distinguished group. But before I introduce tonight's panelists, I want to make the point that one would have examined many programs and one would have looked at many programs aired by the opposition APNU AFC on their different fora using various activists and members of parliament. One of the trends one must note is that the APNU AFC is incapable, seemingly incapable, of having anyone outside of their leadership to defend them. And one wonders why. In stark contrast, it is my honor to introduce to you tonight, beginning with a very good friend of mine, Ms. Quacy Munroe. Quacy, I'd like to welcome you to tonight's program. Are you with me, Quacy? We seem to have lost Quacy for a moment. All right, we're also joined by Ms. Samantha Sheoprasad. Samantha, it's more than an honor to have you on tonight's program.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gordon.
You're welcome. And last but by no means least, Mr. Don Singh, who seemed very relaxed and ready to go as we discuss the political issues of today. Welcome, Don.
Hey, thanks, Mike. I'm always relaxed, buddy.
I want to, Quacy, are you with us? Quacy, there seemed to be some audio, and it is at this point I should take the opportunity to remind our viewers that we are doing this program remotely. We are in 4 different locations, and of course, this program continues to be at the mercy of technology. So from time to time, there may be some hiccups, but I have every confidence that our technical team is more than capable of ensuring that you sit back, relax, and enjoy tonight's program. Colleagues, I want to begin first on a very respectful note, and I'd like to publicly express my gratitude and to wish His Excellency Dr. Irfan Ali, at least for the remainder of what is his birthday, a very happy birthday to you, sir. And Mr. President, we are more than honored to have you as the leader of this country and one of the leaders within the People's Progressive Party Civic at the highest level. And we are also proud of you because of the leadership you have demonstrated, not even before you assumed office as President of the Republic of Guyana, as a leader across the region, as a father, as a husband. We thank you for your service. We thank First Lady Arya Ali and our young Ali for releasing such a fine young man to this country in service. So again, from all of us within the People's Progressive Party and from my home, happy birthday to you, sir. Don, Samantha, you want to join in on this? Okay, we
wish him
continue.
all the strength.
I really, really want to wish him a happy, happy birthday. He has guided us through a very, very severe period last year when all was in doubt. Well, not in doubt, but we had a severe fight to restore democracy to our country. This is his first birthday as president, so I'd like to wish him a very, very happy birthday, President Ali. Keep on keeping on, as I always say, and we're with you. We will fight with you. And I hope First Lady Arya is making you very happy today with a lot of cake and a lot of joviality and fun.
Somehow I knew
Samantha?
Don would have mentioned food somewhere along the line. Samantha?
Yeah, I think I was saying something earlier, but I'm not sure if you guys are hearing me.
No, we missed that. We missed that.
We're hearing you now.
Okay, I was saying happy birthday to our president, and I wish him all the best. And I know certainly this is one of the most tough position that he would have ever hold in our country's the highest office, and certainly wish him abundance, blessings, and prosperity in our leading our nation forward.
Quincy, you're back with us?
Yes, had a bit internet issue. I would like to wish our president, Dr. Irfan Ali, a very joyful, you know, healthy. You gotta expand health because of what is going on with this pandemic, and it is, as Samantha just mentioned, a very tough period. We have seen what is taking place around the world, more so currently at least in the terms of debt. So it's very, very tough um, for us during this period. So I wish him nothing but the best. I'm very proud. I'm very happy to be serving him as president. In whatever capacity I could, because for me, he possesses the quality of leadership we so desperately need at this point.
I want us to jump into some of the political discussions of the day. And I recently witnessed, or I recently saw one of the political programs aired online by the main opposition APNU FC coalition. And the featured speaker on that program was former President Mr. David Granger. Of course, there were many calls for Mr. Granger to reappear publicly and to say something to the supporters of the APNU FC. So, Mr. Granger, on the program's name is The Public Interest. The Public Interest. And before I get into some of the comments made by Mr. Granger, and the name of the program is The Public's Interest. The montage of the program carried the faces of Mr. Granger and his wife, and of course, a couple school buses or something. But the program focuses on the public interest when it highlights only the face of the former president and his family and the buses named after him. One wonders the level of thought which goes into some of the things and some of the utterances made within the APNU AFC. And I believe to name a program The Public's Interest, and you introduces the program only with the face of the former president, it speaks volumes of the fact that there isn't anything tangible to show the Guyanese people. It is also testimony to the philosophical and the ideological, the philosophical and ideological handicap of the APNU AFC. So Mr. Granger went on the program to say that the APNU AFC offered Guyana nothing like what it was before within the political realm. Mr. Granger believes that what the APNU AFC offered Guyana, and this is what he said, I kid you not. Mr. Granger believed that the coalition offered Guyana a political partnership that that survived successfully together for 10 years. What an achievement. And also he goes on to say, after wantonly ignoring and usurping the Constitution of Guyana, since December 2018, Mr. Granger boasted. He made two boasts. That the APNU FC successfully held office for 5 years. Successfully. 5 years. And even more interested, he believes the hallmark of the period of the coalition is the leadership and experience that he brought to the table. And my word, my only word I could come up with is unbelievable. Don?
Yeah, let me jump in here, Mike. Now, look, David Arthur Granger has been the most abysmal leader of the PNC, I would think. He has not led his supporters. I mean, even after the last defeat in after March 2nd last year, David Arthur Granger abandoned his supporters. 217,000 people voted for the PNC. Well, they will never show their SOPs because they know it might be less, but let's not go into that. David Arthur Granger, and it was, yeah, I think yesterday or today, that his own soulmate, Mr. Rickford Burke of the CGID, released a scathing, I don't know what to call it. He threw him in the hot water. He says this guy is just like he's in denial. He's a dictator. He's a dictator. He does not know what he speaks of. He never knows what he's doing. He might be a smart, philosophical, and historical person, but David Arthur Granger is not a leader. And that was shown to us very clearly, very, very clearly after the no confidence motion in 2018. You know, all this nonsense about 33 and 34 and what's a majority of 65. The Guyanese people learned about David Arthur Granger at that point. He was ineffective before. I mean, there was a whole ExxonMobil bonus that was hidden from Guyana, and I don't think he even knew about it. But he took the blame for it or whatever. David Arthur Granger does not know to lead people. David Arthur Granger was not trusted by his idol, Mr. Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham, to ever lead the army back in the 80s. And this guy is clueless. He runs and hides in his bunker in Pearl, and just says nothing. He has left his supporters out to dry, and it's a sad reality. And I mean, even now as we're going forward, I mean, the PNC Congress is overdue, I think. He's still waffling, and he's probably trying to rig that also. He didn't succeed last year with the national election, so he'll probably try to rig that because Walter Lawrence is hot on his tail. So he's not going to succeed in that. And as it says, approaching 80 years old, he's still trying to manipulate himself into the leadership of the PNC. David Arthur Granger has failed Guyana. Whatever policies he's tried, all these old military tactics, having Durban Park, all this nonsense drill square, it has failed, and he has failed Guyana. I mean, I could go on for hours about David Arthur Granger. You know, this guy just stands up and says, I will abide by the Constitution. And he says to your face, and then he does quite the opposite. Because after the no confidence motion in 2018, by law, by Constitution, the cabinet has to resign. By law, by Constitution, there's no ifs, ands, and buts. But yet, they met and they issued edicts to the people of Guyana. So, I mean, if there's one thing to keep hitting on David Arthur Granger, is that he never abided by the Constitution. He interpreted the Constitution to his own whim of fancy. I mean, and don't let me dominate the program too much. Sam or Quacy, have your say.
But Samantha, one wonders the level of thinking behind the utterances made by Mr. Granger, when he goes on to say, for example, his coalition government successfully remained in office for 5 years. The world knows that the coalition government toppled in 2018. My mathematics tells me that his government was toppled after 3 years. Samantha?
When people talk about successful, you have to certainly ask what and how they define successful. What are the measurements towards successful? How are they measuring success? Your term or your definition about success might be different from my term or my definition about success. And when we speak about leadership, obviously as a leader you have different phases you go through, right? And you wouldn't want to hold on to a position that you can't contribute to, or you can't lead people. Basically at this age, I think our former president should retire from being a leader and just give the younger people a chance in his party. And when we speak about leadership, we as young people were looking all the time for young leadership, leadership that has a passionate blood, leadership that talks about economical development, youth development, that talks about policies and implement those policies. You know, ministers that listen. I remember writing publicly about my street where I live in Enterprise. And within less than 6 months, that street was done. Our water situation in Enterprise that was there deplorable for the last couple of years, it was fixed. Every month, we have people coming to our village to listen to the people. The people want to hear from their leaders. The people want to engage the leaders. They want their leaders to engage them.
Which in my view is
When
in
you are
stark
taking,
contrast which in my view is in stark contrast to what obtained between 2015 and 2020. Don't you think?
of course, in those periods, with our village, we never really had people coming to our village. Every month, there's engagement with different key party officials coming to the village and speaking to people about their problems. It's not just about road, or it's not just about water. There might be other problems that people are facing within our community.
I want to bring in Quacy here on the Granger utterances, and this is in no way, shape, or form me being disrespectful by saying Granger utterances, but there isn't a better way to describe it, Quacy.
Wait, I would say it's comical because even within its own party, you can see the lack of leadership. I mean, the recent fallout with James Bond, one of his own party members, and the fact that your administration lost a successful passage of a no confidence motion after how many years? 3 years in government, and then
With a
how could
majority
you
in
even
parliament, with a
you
parliamentary
know,
majority.
the majority exactly, and then how could you harp and tell supporters or viewers or whoever is it that you led a successful coalition, and then you lost the election, right? And then took us down a period in which no one in this 24th century could have ever believed that in these modern times that you would try to pull out such a stunt. I mean, 5 long months before we have a democratically elected government in place. Those were worrying times. How could you now come out and talk about, being successful as a leader? Not even to your own party, you're a successful leader. Most of the country as a whole. So I like I said, I find it very comical. I mean, he's in most time, in my view, always in a vacuum. He's always hidden away from his own supporters. He had no sense of leadership. You could not have seen that. You couldn't even have seen that in his within his government, from the ministers all the way down. No sense of leadership. Everyone basically back then were doing their own thing. Ministers were doing their own thing, and then that's, for me, that was one of the main reasons during his, he never really put out any conference and never had much to say, because there wasn't anything much to say. So Rachel, as usual, sorry, is just in its own world when it comes to politics and the way this country is being run. So you come out often, make statements, and then duck back in until whatever again. And that's been going on since his tenure in government.
Don, you made a very important point about the non-holding of Congress, but we're going to get into that a bit. But let's look at, let's first be very clear. Globally, this is not just in Guyana. Any government who loses an election, worse yet, who loses an election after one term, worse yet, a no confidence motion in the legislature, with a majority in the legislature, you cannot be considered anything else but an abysmal failure. And we need to be lucid about that. There aren't two ways
Mike,
about it.
let me just jump in. I mean, the writing was on the wall for the PNC. I do not go with the whole AFNU AFC nonsense. It's just the PNC. The AFC died a long time ago. They committed harikiri and they were out.
You seem to be preempting. You seem to be preempting my line of issues I want to raise.
Sorry.
No, because I tell you why. One of the things I wanted to say is that partially one of the reasons behind the APNU AFC's failure in its one and only term in the force in a very long time, and the only time in a very long time coming, is because it carried a dead weight by the name of the Alliance for Change. We are witnessing the death of the Alliance for Change, and forgive me for interrupting you, but we're essentially witnessing the non-existence of the death for the Alliance for Change. I don't even think mouth-to-mouth resuscitation could help.
Sorry, say again. I didn't catch that.
My last comment, I said I don't even think mouth-to-mouth resuscitation could revive the AFC.
I tell you what, the AFC had COVID-19 long before the world knew about COVID-19. They were gasping for breath. I mean, you have people like Kemraj Ramjatan, David Patterson, Cathy Hughes. I will call names. I have no compunction in calling the names of these people who have misled the Guyanese people. They were subsumed by the PNC, and there's no APNU anymore. All of those small parties couldn't get 5 votes if they tried very hard on a Sunday at Starbuck Market. It's PNC, and there was some AFC left, and the AFC was subsumed. I mean, they had these guys like Imran Khan and his wife Tamara, and they were just spewing propaganda. They were subsumed, and they couldn't articulate what, even if the party was doing anything, they couldn't articulate it. And they failed. They failed big time because they went into power, I will not lie, in 2015 with a lot of goodwill. Huge amount of goodwill. People were like, all right, let's try something. Let's try a different thing. Let's have some change. And they blew it in literally a month. Went with the pay increases of 50% across the board. Raphael Trotman, of also the AFC, lied about it. And then when we found out in August, it was gazetted in May. I mean, it's lie after lie after lie with this party. I just don't get it. You don't understand that in the years that we live in, 2015, 16, 17, 18, with social media, with the internet, we live in the age of information. As Samantha will no doubt tell us a bit more. I mean, she's a whiz at social media and internet and connectivity. You cannot lie to people. We will find out very, very shortly who you are. I mean, they had this whole thing about what was it? Homestretch Development Corporation. First, it was run by Rupert Rupnaraine. The whole Durban Park $5 billion scam. We never knew who it was. They failed within a year. Within a single year, the PNC failed Guyana. And after that, they were on life support. Forget about AFC. They died the minutes, like about two minutes after that. Um, so the NCF of 2018 was just it was I've spoken to a few people, and Sharon Das Prasad was not the only one who was going to vote yes. There were quite a few others who were just sick and fed up of the incompetence of the PNC in 2018.
Quasi, you want to weigh in on this issue? We're talking
Yes.
the non-existence of the AFC.
Yes, I fully support everything that Don just mentioned. I mean, I remember even during election campaign, I couldn't use APNU AFC. It was clear PNC. All the tactics, all the attitude, the bullyism, everything was just PNC. Like Don said just now that they had, maybe they had good plans, they had vision, but within a year, to say the least, we saw this was all PNC because the internal fighting was already playing out itself among the smaller parties concerning who get what in terms of where government ministries and these kind of things are concerned. Everybody was just fighting. So for me, it was all about power. It had nothing else to do with developing this country. It was just about power. It was clear just about power. The arrogance from the ministers, more so particularly from PNC side. Check back the conduct, and we would have assumed then that AFC would have. I mean, we understand PNC, that's just PNC, but AFC was words gonna express how disappointed when you listen to young, vibrant supporters they had then. AFC was practically the youth arm of the coalition because they had a lot of youth. They were the driving force behind that victory in 2015. So when they took government and all the young people in the party just had to step aside because I think back then Granger made it clear that their time, something along the line, but their time will come. So when you do that to young, vibrant leaders, then you leave them with no hope. There were no hope since then when it comes to AFC's survival. So it's not surprising how or what have become of AFC. It just took long, but it wasn't surprising, at least for me.
Sam, your thoughts on this?
Well, I certainly think that whenever someone takes leadership, you have a responsibility to our country. And in that position there, you are basically fulfilling your national duty as a policy maker, as someone who is pledging to serve our country. But some of what we have seen in the last 5 years and more is where leaders are basically taking these positions and looking at them as pocket filling. They're looking at them as something that they can carve opportunities out of. And we have not seen, those type of things like happening in some parts of the AFC. They were very silent on issues. They were not saying anything. I remember when some of the party member, they spoke out against what was happening last year. They were being attacked. And with that being, with what Don and Quacy had just said, I do echo those sentiments. And I certainly believe that they were silent, they were dead for a very long time. Just shame to close their eyes, maybe.
That's very specially put. But I also have to respectfully disagree with Don and Quacy because you both referenced the 2015 victory by the coalition. I am convinced, in my own mind, gentlemen, that based on the performance of Keith Lowenfield and co., that the jury is still out in my own mind and in the mind of many that Avenue AFC actually won that election in 2015. We understood the wind of change was blowing, but I don't think necessarily there was a genuine change. And Micheal Gordon remains convinced, especially after looking at the performance of some elements in the Guyana Elections Commission, that what was attempted in 2020 was not successfully executed in 2015. In my own mind, to say the least, gentlemen.
Yeah, Mike, let me just jump in here. I don't even want to go back to the 2020, what GCOM and Lowenfield and Mingo. Sorry, I call names. Sue me if you want. And all the charlatans in there who were pretending to do what the constitutional office mandated. It was just a sham. And I just want to go further back to add to what Sam and Quacy were saying about the AFC. I saw Kemraj Ramjatan and Kathy Hughes sit down and try to sell this country nonsense about Russians trying to rig our elections. That sticks in my mind as the most nastiest, stupidest, ignorant thing I have heard as a grown adult in a very long time. You're telling me that you caught 3 Russians trying to rig your national elections, a huge fraud, but then you deported them the same day, and the 4th one is on the run and has never been caught. I mean, the nonsense that these people try to tell you. And I'll go further. What did the PNC now, because it's the PNC alone, AFC has passed away. The PNC has gone on to racism. They feel they need to regain their base, for lack of a better word, so that everything is Afro-Guyanese are being marginalized, Afro-Guyanese are being pounced upon, Afro-Guyanese this, Afro-Guyanese that. But of course they don't say Afro-Guyanese. They use the other derogatory term, which I would not use. And it's really sickening. In this time when this country is about to grow, when this country is about to boom, when this country is about to take a huge step forward after 50 some odd years after independence, we do not need this nonsense anymore. There will be people coming to our shores who will take our jobs if we are divided. There will be people coming to these shores who will take over our businesses if we are divided. And we have to hold a common ground and a common head. This nonsense about Afro-Guyanese are being sidelined, it's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. And I wish the party would first of all stop. They've cottoned on to a new term, installed. Well, they're not good at math. Apparently, they're not good at English either. Because you install anything that's elected, you install and you put in the throne. And Queen Elizabeth was installed as the queen 50, 60 years ago. What we need to do is to come together as a country, and we need to come together as a country as one. Political parties need to sit down and talk to each other. And this acrimony of Joe Harmon, the leader of the opposition, if you want to call him that, that's another thing. He considers himself the legitimate leader of the opposition, but the president, who's elected by the people of Ghana, is not legitimate. I mean, it's going from the sublime to the ridiculous now. And we do not have the time for this nonsense. If the PNC wants to regain some footing or respect of the 217,000 people who voted for them, they need to stop with this nonsense and this foolish petition that says we want this election to be nullified, but we still want David Arthur Granger to be elected as president by the same election that we are petitioning to be nullified. It's nonsense after nonsense after nonsense. We do not have time for this, Mike. Quacy, Sam, take it from here.
Yeah,
Sam, you want to
yeah.
jump? Sam, you want to jump in on
Sorry,
this?
sorry.
Yes, I certainly believe and echo Don's sentiment. This time we need to focus on national development. We need to focus on national healing. We need to focus on working with each other, regardless of our political beliefs or religious background, race. We need to work together. At the forefront, when someone comes to our country, they will not see you by a party. They will not see you by a race. They will see you as Guyanese. And that's something that I have been echoing for a very long time. We certainly need to focus on ourselves. There are lots of opportunities right now, and we need to prepare for those opportunities, or else cat gonna eat with dinner.
Well put. Quacy, your
Yep.
thoughts?
Once again, Don hit the put a hammer on the nail there when it comes to how his rhetoric being put out by PNC. And like I said, even for me, it was a challenge. It is a challenge because that's what they do. They just focus more so on dividing the nation. And like Don said, they feel that that is what's going to keep their support base intact. And then that's all they have. But it's unfortunate to say the least. What I can say, we have to continue to work as a people, to continue to preach a message of peace and unity among um, ourselves. We can't depend upon no political party or leader to do that because, as you see, the political players will act in their interests. They just want to have PNC leaders, members, they have one interest, and that is to gain power. So they don't care. They don't care. It was clear as day. They don't care what it takes, right? So we cannot, what we have to do is continue to unify among ourselves and continue to fight this whole rhetoric, this racism things that they continue to use um, to divide us as a people so that they can benefit personally. Um, yeah, sorry, brother.
I believe President Ali put, I think he drew the correlation between Guyana's true development and national harmony. He created a nexus between the two, and Dr. Ali believes, President Ali, that for Guyana to truly realize its fullest potential, there must be unity and harmony among its people. And I don't think it could have been better said, Samantha. You cannot have one without the other. And the faster Guyanese as a whole realize that those who seek to divide us are not good for the development of this nation and for each and every one of us, Samantha, as individuals. And I believe, as Quacy noted just now, I believe the president hit the nail on the head. Samantha?
I certainly believe at this time we as citizens need to take our personal responsibility as well, because a president is only one man. We have one minister to if each and different sector, but if we as citizens take our personal responsibility to stamp out things like corruption, to stamp out things that doesn't serve or bring value to our country, then we will be doing a national service at our very own level to our country. And I'm not saying this because this is something that we need to do. But I'm saying this because this is something that we urgently need to focus on as citizens. We can't just sit around and wait for a president or anyone to do things for us. We must also do for ourselves at our community level. At every day, we must be able to serve our country in our own capacity, in our own service, in our own will, in our own skills. And as the pledge say, we are serving towards prosperity of the national development of our country. I think I take those lines of our pledge to my heart, and I'm hoping that other Guyanese do so, because this is a critical time, and it's mother of all development that is happening right now. And whether you are from another party, you're from another race, you're from another culture, right? This is COVID season. It doesn't respect who you are right now. It can take you at any time, but at the same time, we also need to be mindful. We also need to act in regards of national unity and work together. I believe that is one of the strongest area that will help us to serve our country.
Quacy, your thoughts?
Yes, in echoing what she just mentioned, it is like I mentioned just now, it's the right approach. Each and every one of us individually have to take charge in the fight against racism, in the fight against PNC and their evil plans they have set out when it comes to this country. We cannot depend solely on, like you said, the president is just one person. His ministers, everybody, these are everybody have a task. We have to unify against this. Without that, they will continue to press on. There's no stopping them. They are resolute in what they're doing when it comes to dividing our people. So we have to continue to preach the message of unity and peace. It's important.
Yes.
Among our youths, I see Charles Ramson, sports minister. He's trying a lot in that area, keeping our youths engaged, unified with these different programs. Um, a lot is being done, I must say. You can't take that away from this government. From since again attained office, a lot has been done. All the ministers are continuously working. They're on the ground, Sunday to Sunday. You check their different programs. They're out there. They're doing their part. We need to do our part. That is where the point where we're at right now. Everybody needs to play their part in this fight.
One wonders where time goes when we get into these discussions,
Yes.
and done. Our time is almost gone. But let me engage you guys in some street talk. The word out there. You hear the word on the ground. Only I believe it was yesterday or Friday. I heard someone say, "Well, yes, boy, what them Bonner couldn't do in 5 years happening during COVID. Look around this country and see what's going on. They can't complete Mandela Avenue." Let's talk about the massive infrastructural and economic and other development happening around us. Of course, there are even plans for the gas to shore project. We don't have much time to indulge in this, but Don, your thoughts?
Yeah, all right. Let me jump in quick, Mike. Look, this is no country for old men with old ideas anymore. 69% of our population is under the age of 25.
Don, you like to call names. Name one.
Dag. Yeah, I mean, we can see development happening all over our country right now, and we're only 8 months into the the government of the PPPC. But let me tell you what, Guyana is about to boom. It's about to go boom. We will have a lot of people coming into our country, and we are developing a local content policy so that Guyanese will benefit, and there'll be a transfer of ideas and skills from these foreigners to Guyanese, because we will need it. Because Guyana is on a boom track for at least 15 years. 69% of our country is under the age of 35. We have to develop this country for those people. I see Samantha nodding her head. I mean, Samantha is one of those people I have so much admiration for. I mean, she's just in the IT field. I mean, the IT field, Guyana is 20 years behind the rest of the world in IT. I don't know if she might say 25 or 15, but in my estimation, it is. And I don't want to hog the time. And thanks for having me on, Mike. But this is our time. This is Guyana's time, and we have no time to waste with people who will nitpick and drag us down and try to keep us back. This is not about race. This is not about Afro Indo. This is about Guyanese. Guyanese finally getting a shot, a real shot at it. 120 miles offshore, we have our shot at it. And this is the time that we need to take it by coming together as a people. If you don't want to come together, you will be left behind, because Guyanese need to thrive and we need to go forward.
Quacy, I'm going to ask you to weigh in on this, but I'm also going to ask you to weigh in on this against the backdrop that there are significant efforts to ensure that the Dutch disease does not obtain in Guyana, that the traditional sectors or the traditional productive sectors are not neglected because of an emerging oil and gas sector. Quacy?
Yeah, Gordon, clearly from what we're seeing at the moment, all the sectors so far is booming. We have the education sector for which Honorable Priya Manichan is heading. She just announced 20,000 online scholarships. We have the Ministry of Housing, they just only recently give out 200 contracts and with a record-breaking $13.9 billion in those contracts. You have the other infrastructure ministries, Ministry of Public Infrastructure. They're doing a lot of work also. So we are seeing these.
No, the Ministry of Public Works, Ministry of Public
Sorry.
Infrastructure is synonymous with bangles. We don't do bangles. We do development.
Yeah. So, like I said, Gordon, we are seeing development since for the last 8 months. We are seeing and experiencing development. Um, Adding to what Don said, we have to stop focusing on these nitpicking. We have to stop focusing on, these race-based um, attitude with AFC or PNC more say to these, towards our people. We can't focus on them. We have to unify. We have to come together and move ahead. He said, "This is our time now. This is our time now, and we have to capitalize on it. And we cannot do it separated."
Samantha?
Certainly echoing the sentiments of the other two gentlemen. I'm very happy to see that there's a lot of opportunities that are flowing around, and ministers are really reaching out to communities. I would encourage them to continue engaging those people, especially our rural community. They need a lot of support and a lot of development right now. And if we can tap into our rural community, that's where the real development are going to start, because we have a lot of untapped skills in those communities, languages that we don't even probably know about, right? And I've been learning myself recently. And as Don mentioned, there will be a lot of transferable skills that are going to be passed on to Guyanese. Um, Don, you know what I've been doing for the very longest time. And those young people in my database would be very, very happy if they are able to get those type of opportunities sort of to further their development. There are a lot of young people who are looking to open up jobs. They're not longer looking for jobs now. They're looking to open up their own little small business. Those young people definitely will going to be benefiting from some of the programs, the projects, and the investment that I've been seeing recently that I can say I'm pretty much happy about. 20,000 scholarship is no easy thing to do, you know, for an entire country like this. And I hope that young people like myself can be able to capitalize on these opportunity, because education is not free. It's not easy to acquire a degree. It's some of the things that I would have gone through to acquire my degree. Now it's given as a scholarship. I think you guys should capitalize on those type of things, because before it's not something that is easily given to young people like myself. Many times you have to work 2 or 3 jobs to go UG just to ensure that you have a certificate. And then at the end of the day, you graduate, you find no job. So young people are now creating that possibility. I remember going to a program sometime back, and it was said it wasn't the government responsibility to create jobs, that young people need to create those jobs. I remember how that thing shocked me to the core, right? I was like, wow. And it was said by our very own former president.
Very memorable words.
Yes.
Samantha Sheoprasad Quacy Munroe, Don Singh. It was my honor having all of you on this program tonight. And to our viewers and listeners on Freedom Radio, you've been listening to and watching Let's Talk Politics, a special program brought to you by the People's Progressive Party Civic. I'm your host, Micheal Gordon. For those of you joining us across the length and breadth of Guyana, in the diaspora, and those of you, as I said before, listening on radio, I am most grateful that you remained with us tonight, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again as I host this program on Wednesday night. Join my colleague Edward Lane on Tuesday for more Let's Talk Politics. Do have a good night.